Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Alex and this is my Revive channel. So for today's video I'm gonna talk about the Austrian school system, as I mentioned in my previous videos, because I think it would be really interesting for non-Austrian people to learn a little bit about my country. So without further ado, I am gonna look down a little bit because there are my notes, but let's get started. So in Austria it is mandatory to go to school for 9 years, 4 years of elementary school, and I will put the German name right somewhere here, and 4 years for a lower secondary education like middle school. There are two different types of middle schools. There's the new middle school and the gymnasium. Typically the gymnasium is for high achievers, people who have better grades, who have it really easy in school. So there's a stigma around the new middle schools that people that go there are dumber. I don't think that. I got my Matura certificate and I went to a new middle school, so yeah. So after your lower secondary education, you have two options. The first one is an apprenticeship. An apprenticeship is a kind of job training where you are following and studying a master of the trade that you want to study instead of going to school. But before you can do that, you have to go to a polytechnic institute or school for 1 year, because you only went to school for 8 years at this point, and in that school you are getting education and you have time to find out what apprenticeship you want to do, so what job you want to learn, and find a position for an apprentice job. After finding a position, you have to attend vocational school for 3 years. This can be done in block release, 5 days a week for 4 months, or day release once a week for the same stretch of time as a normal school would be. On the days that you're at school, you don't have to work. So in school you learn the theory and at work you learn the practice. At the end of those 3 years you have to do your final apprenticeship examination, and then you're free to work in the field that you studied. But you can't, so if you learn to be a carpenter, you can't just switch up and be a hairdresser all of a sudden. That's why most people get their Matura, because then they're eligible to do much more different jobs than if you do an apprenticeship, even though we need people who do apprenticeships. The second option is to go to an institute of higher education or a vocational school with higher education entrance qualification, which is what I went to. Most of these schools require an entrance exam or demand high marks on your last certificate. The final exam for either one of those is the matriculation or Matura, and after that you're free to go to college, university, though some subjects may require an entrance exam like medicine, but without the Matura, so with an apprenticeship, you're not allowed to go to college or university. So now I want to talk about the different secondary education options, because there are a lot, and of course the Matura. So the document you receive after successful completion of the written and oral exam is called the Matura certificate. The first school type is the gymnasium or AHS, and you will recognize this because before I told you about the gymnasium, but this, the one before is the lower education gymnasium, like middle school, and this one is the higher education gymnasium, like a high school, which opposed to vocational schools focus on general knowledge and general education and will not give you any type of specific job education. So you can't go out and do any job that you want without further training, but most of the people that go to an AHS go to college or university after. The Matura consists of 3 to 4 written exams, which are 4 to 5 hours long, to be taken on consecutive mornings, usually around May, and 2 to 3 oral exams, which are to be taken on one day, and they are usually a month later in June. And you also have to write a scholarly paper. I'm gonna put in some clips of mine. You have to submit it in February, and you also have to defend it in an oral exam. Then there are vocational schools with a focus on either business and economics or technical subjects such as commercial academies, HAKs, and again I will put the German name and the translation right here, and polytechnics, HTLs, which is what I went to, and both of these, so all of these vocational schools also finish with the Matura, but last 5 years opposed to the 4-year upper stage gymnasium. In vocational schools, an education focus is chosen. In my case, it was graphic and communication design. This varies from school to school, so you need to find a school that you want to go to. A lot of the times this is not in your area. For my case, I had to drive 1 hour to school every day. You can go to a dorm room. For us, high school is kind of like college in America, so. But the education focus is then constituting the main focus of your schooling and will also be tested in your Matura exam. In the vocational schools, the Matura system is exactly the same. You have 3 to 4 written tests. You have math, German, English, and your main subject, for me, was media technology and applied computer sciences. And you have 2 to 3 oral exams, which you could choose out of a pool of subjects. And for me, in my case, it was subjects like art history, typography, communication design, and so on. So you have to do 2, but you can also, I took English orally, so you can take German or English orally or in a written test, but you don't have to do them orally. So I had 3 written tests and 3 oral exams. So there are so many different types of secondary educations, but I will not get into all of those because then this video would be a million years long, and the system is the same. The only thing that varies are the subjects. The last thing I wanted to mention before going to my hourly table is the grading system. In Austria we have a universally used grading system. It goes from 1 to 5, 1 being excellent, 2 good, 3 satisfactory, 4 is sufficient, and 5 means you failed. In your certificate you'll also get an overall assessment, like pass with distinction, an average of 1.5 or higher, no grade below 3, pass with merit, an average of 2.0 or better, no grade below 3, pass, no grade below 4, or failed, which means that you failed 1 subject. Students who failed will have to take a test at the beginning of the next year, or if you failed your Matura, you can either take it again in fall or in spring of the next year. So now I'm gonna show you what a hourly table would look like for my school. I don't have my timetable anymore. I should have saved it somewhere because it would be really interesting because it's really different to other schools and to other countries. So I'm not gonna read you all of the hours because that would take me a million years. So here's the hour board for higher education of graphic and communication design. I'm gonna put it right on the screen. In first grade we had 37 hours, in second grade 38 hours, in third 37 again, in fourth 39, and in fifth we had 34 hours because we had the scholarly paper and the Matura to study for. So it is separated into general subjects and professional theory and practice, which are job and school specific. If you want, again, you can read the hours. But for general we have religion, German, English, geography, history and political education, economy and law, sports, maths, natural sciences like physics and chemistry. These subjects are the same for every single school. And then we have the professional theory and practice, which for me were design and sketching, presentation and composition, media technology and applied computer science, typography, communication design, art history and cultural philosophy. As well as 1 hour of social and personal competence in the first 2 years. You can also, if enough people want, learn Spanish or Italian, but these are not required. You also need to do 2 4-week internships in the summer to enter the 5th year and also to attend the Matura. And last but not least, I'm gonna talk a little bit about college and university, but since I haven't experienced that, I can only talk about it generally. So we have universities and universities of applied sciences. Universities of applied sciences are rather called colleges, and the university system was free until 2001. Since then, students have to pay around 366 euros a semester for Austrian citizens, and for non-Austrian citizens it's about 700 euros a semester, so still pretty cheap. Like I said in my last video, we do have some private universities, but it's not really common. In Austria, virtually everyone can afford to go to university, which is great, but some people still have a problem with that. Some of those include that a dramatic expansion in numbers of students led to overcrowding at many institutions, which is why most universities now have an entrance exam and also limit the students that they take on. Some critics also say due to the availability of higher education for everyone, the overall quality of university education level gets diminished despite increases in federal investment, which I think this is all bullshit, because we need a country that has education for everyone and everyone has access for it, and I don't think it diminishes the education, because you still have the knowledge, and if you have knowledge it's worth a lot, so I don't know. So the difference between universities and universities of applied science are that the training at these colleges is more tailored to practically applicable subjects or professional skills. Also, students are allowed much less liberty in choosing which and how many subjects or courses they take during a given semester, which ensures that virtually all students graduate within the prescribed time, 3 years for bachelor and 2 additional years for masters. And to get a doctor's degree, you have to go to medical school for at least 6 years, depending on what doctor you want to become. And I think that was it. I hope this video isn't too long and I didn't read too much of the pages, but it was really hard for me to remember the certain words, because of course I know how the Austrian school system works, but there's a lot of English words that I've never heard, or that, I don't know, that you don't really apply in your day-to-day life, so I needed to research them. And I hope this video was interesting for you. For me, the research was really interesting, so yeah. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, comment down below whatever you want to comment down below, and I will see you next week. Bye!